I'm Jennifer.
Standing here on the porch of this beach house, watching as my family's cars pull away one by one, I feel a sense of closure wash over me. The crunch of gravel under their tires is the only sound breaking the silence, and I'm finally alone. But this time, being alone is a choice I've made. It all started 11 months ago when I received a call from a lawyer named Mr.
Thompson.
I found out about my grandmother's passing through a post on Twitter, not a phone call or a text from my family. A distant cousin I hardly knew had shared a picture of Grandma Beatrice in her garden, along with the words, "Rest in peace, Aunt B." I sat in my apartment in Seattle, staring at my phone, waiting for someone to reach out. But the silence was deafening. I drove for hours to make it to the funeral, only to find out that the time had changed and the service had already started. I sat in the back row, feeling like an outsider. My mother, Emily, didn't even turn around to acknowledge me. My sister, Lily, glanced at me once and then looked away as if I were a stranger. After the burial, when I tried to talk to my mother, she treated me like I was an interruption. "Jennifer, you made it," she said, without a hint of warmth. It was like I had shown up uninvited to a party. 3 weeks later, Mr.
Thompson called me.
"Miss Harris, I was your grandmother's attorney," he said. I had no idea Grandma Beatrice had an attorney. He told me to keep the call private and meet him in person. When I walked into his office, he handed me an envelope with my name written in Grandma's shaky handwriting. Inside was a letter. "My dearest Jennifer, you are the only one who visited me out of love, not for what I had. So, I'm leaving you my beach house. Don't let them make you invisible anymore," it read. I was in shock. This beach house was the place where my family gathered every Christmas, and I had always been left out. For 15 years, I'd spent Christmas alone, scrolling through photos on social media, wondering what I had done wrong. I remembered the first time I noticed the exclusion. I was 16, and I saw a photo on Facebook of my whole family in Grandma's living room, laughing and having a great time. I called my mother that night, and she gave me some excuse about thinking I was busy. I tried to show up unannounced one year when I was 22. My mother's face went pale when she opened the door, and I could hear Lily asking if anyone had invited me. I left the next morning and never tried again. As I delved deeper into the reason behind my mother's coldness, I started to understand. My father, Carl, was a musician. He was a free spirit who followed his dreams but couldn't provide a stable life for my mother. My mother married him when she was 20, against her parents' wishes. She was young and in love, but reality hit hard. My father's career never took off, and they lived in a small, shabby apartment. When I was 5, my father was in a car accident on his way to a gig. He died instantly. After that, my mother remarried a wealthy man, Robert, and they had Lily. Slowly, she began to erase my father from our lives. And I had my father's eyes, a unique shade of green that reminded her of the pain and disappointment she had gone through. Grandma Beatrice was the only one who understood me. She knew that I loved her unconditionally, and that's why she left me the beach house. Mr. Thompson told me that the will was ironclad and that Grandma had anticipated the family's resistance. I decided to keep it a secret for 11 months. During that time, I watched as my family continued to use the beach house without knowing that it was now mine. I saw the photos on Instagram of my mother and sister enjoying themselves on the deck, and I saved them as evidence. In September, I received an email from Aunt Grace, Grandma's younger sister, forwarded from a family group chat I'd never been added to. My mother had written that the beach house needed maintenance and that she'd be hiring a contractor. She spent a large sum of money to renovate the house, not knowing that it was now my property. I kept all the invoices. As Christmas approached, I started to plan. I reported a potential trespassing situation to the local sheriff's office. Deputy Johnson was incredibly professional. He asked me to prove my ownership, and I showed him the deed, the will, and the tax records. We arranged to meet on Christmas Eve morning to verify the documents. The night before I flew to the beach house, I got a call from Aunt Grace. She was the only one in the family who had ever asked about me. "Are you sure you're okay, Jennifer? Your mother says you prefer to be alone," she said. I told her that she'd understand soon. When I arrived at the beach house on December 23rd, it was exactly as I remembered it. The key Mr. Thompson had given me fit perfectly into the new lock I'd installed. I walked through the house, room by room, and found a photo of my family from 3 years ago on the mantel. I wasn't in the picture, as usual. But in Grandma's old bedroom, I found a small frame with a picture of me and her. It was taken 6 months before she died, and we were sitting on the porch, laughing. I placed it in the center of the mantelpiece. On Christmas Eve morning, I woke up to the sound of waves crashing outside. I put on a red dress, Grandma's favorite color. She always said red was for those who refused to be invisible. At 8:30, Deputy Johnson called to say he was on his way. I spread all the documents across the dining room table and prepared 23 copies of an eviction notice. At 11:47 a.m., I saw the first car turn onto the gravel road. My mother's car led the way, followed by Lily's and the rest of the family's vehicles. They got out of their cars, acting like they owned the place. My mother walked towards the door with her keys jangling, wearing a fur coat and diamond earrings. She looked so confident, so in control. When she inserted her key into the lock and it didn't work, her face showed confusion. I opened the door, and the look on her face was priceless. She stared at me, speechless. "Good morning, Mom," I said calmly. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?"
She stammered.
"This is my house now. It has been for 11 months, I replied. The family was in shock. When Deputy Johnson stepped out of his patrol car, Aunt Grace was the first to notice. "Emily, why is there a police officer here?"
she asked.
I explained that I had invited him to handle the property dispute. My mother was furious. "This is my mother's house," she shouted. But Deputy Johnson showed her the deed and the will, proving that the house belonged to me. My mother refused to believe it. She claimed that Grandma was confused and that the will was fraudulent. But I had all the evidence to prove her wrong. I also handed out the eviction notices, giving them 30 minutes to leave the property. Lily tried to defend my mother, saying that I was stealing their inheritance. But I reminded them that they had been using the house for free for 15 years and that my mother had renovated it without my permission. Finally, my mother exploded. "I can't stand looking at you. Every time I see your face, I see him, your father. He ruined my life," she screamed. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at her and felt pity. I realized that she had been punishing me for something that wasn't my fault. I told Deputy Johnson to give them the 30 minutes and to escort them off the property if they didn't leave. One by one, the family members left, looking defeated. My mother never apologized. She just sat in the car, staring straight ahead. Aunt Grace stayed behind. She apologized for not speaking up earlier and gave me a letter from Grandma. It said, "Jennifer, you are stronger than you think. Don't let them dim your light." After that Christmas, the messages started pouring in. Some of my relatives were angry, saying that I had been cruel. But others, like Uncle Tom and Cousin Lucy, apologized for believing my mother's lies. My stepfather, Robert, called on New Year's Eve and admitted that he had been oblivious to my mother's exclusion of me. He said he was sorry, but knew that sorry couldn't undo the past. My mother called a week later, trying to convince me to share the house. But I firmly told her no. I had finally found my voice and set boundaries. I knew that some people might never change, but I was determined to build my own life, surrounded by those who truly loved me. This year, I hosted Christmas at the beach house. I invited Aunt Grace, my 2 closest friends from Seattle, and a co-worker who had no family to spend the holidays with. As we sat around the table, laughing and sharing stories, I felt like I finally belonged. I learned that boundaries are not walls but doors with locks, and I get to decide who gets the key.